Welcome everyone to Babiker the Travelers podcast. I have with me Grant Gallacher, what I would consider to be, and many others, one of the, if not the, top performing comedians in Prague.
He almost said that with a straight face, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Lavaos. The bar isn't that high, but still, he's one of the best over here. One of the first comedians I've met since I came here. And when I saw him on stage, I was like, bro, I want to do that. So today we're gonna go over his journey and how he got here. His opinions about having a comedy career in general, and yeah. So Grant, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
I will, Mohammed. Thank you very much for having me on, and thank you for waiting at least, 30 seconds before you sort of insulted me a little bit. That is the most backhanded compliment I've ever received in my entire life. I really do appreciate it. So my name's Grant Gallacher. I'm a comedian. I'm originally from Scotland. I do stand-up comedy, and I also host a YouTube channel called Visual Politic. And I've been living here in Prague for the last 3 years.
Wait, holy shit! You host Visual Politics?
Yeah.
Wait, I used to watch that when the other bald guy was on.
When Simon was on.
This is crazy. Yeah.
I mean, it's good to see you've done your research on it, Mohammed. You really.
No, like I know about your. I remember someone like mentioning that he does this other. I remember Christina. She said me like, Granny, he has this other really big YouTube channel. I was like, really? What's it called? I don't remember. I was like, okay.
That does sound like Christina Hadlova, a good friend of ours. She runs Bella Comedy here in Prague, and she organises a lot of the gigs. And it's good to know that she also doesn't know what the fuck it is I do, as well as you, mate. So
it's all good, dude. It's all good.
We're all keeping.
I mean, come on, you're a comedian first. These are all like side gigs. No one cares, right?
Yeah. I mean, comedy is what I've dedicated my life to. Visual Politic is what pays the bills.
Something has to. But let's get more into that. But before we do, let's kind of zoom out and go back in time. So
okay.
This is you're originally from Scotland, born and raised there.
Yeah.
And so like where are you from specifically in Scotland? Where do you live?
I'm from a tiny town on the west coast of Scotland, which nobody knows. Like even people like 10 miles away don't know it. So I was born in a town called Greenock, which is a sort of small, used to be a port.
Sounds like the name of a water dragon
that
I would catch in Pokemon.
Well, funnily enough, it used to be like a major shipbuilding port. So there was a point in time just before the Second World War where a third of all of the ships in the British Navy fleet were built on the Clyde, which is the river that runs through Glasgow and Greenock. So that's where I'm from. Now, obviously, it doesn't have shipbuilding anymore. They went from like hundreds of shipyards to one. So there's not much going on there now. Now most of the jobs are like call centers or shopping malls and things. But that's where I'm from.
That's good. Random question. What was the name of the Scottish water dragon thing?
A kelpie.
A kelpie.
A kelpie.
I remember that was a big deal back when I was in Scotland. This was years ago. So random fact, like I lived in Scotland for like 2 years.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
And like this is actually how this is one of the first interactions I had with Grant. I was in the show that he was performing, and he asked anyone in the room from Scotland, and like no one raised their hand, and like he was like staring sadly at the stage and at the audience, and I was like, you know what, maybe me. And so I kind of like half raised my hand, and he was staring at me like, "Dude, you?" And I was like, "Kinda." And then like, "Oh," I was about to say, "You don't look very
healthy." Is what I said. I said healthy. I said you look very healthy. So Captain Scott.
Okay, yeah, that's what it was. It was good. It was a good introduction. But yeah, we hit it off of that. And so what did you study? Actually, did you study university first?
Yes. I went to. My mum really wanted me to be a doctor,
oh god.
Yeah, as anyone who has met me for more than 5 minutes can tell, that is not going to happen. So I went to university and I studied parasitology and virology, the study of parasites and viruses. Because
Wait, is that not part of medicine?
No, so it's immunology technically, but technically it's more about studying like the actual diseases themselves rather than the human beings who are getting sick. If you understand what I'm saying. But what you could have done is you could have done that 4-year degree, and then you would have entered into medical school in the second year, which was kind of my plan, because when I was in school, we had like guidance counselors, like people who told you that gave you advice for your future career and stuff. And mine sat me down and they said, "So tell me, Grant, what do you want to do?" And I was like, I think I was really into music at the time, so I was like, I think I want to do something involving like the arts. I want to be like a musician or a performer of some kind. Like I really am interested in that. And because of the area that I grew up in, which was quite deprived, they were like, "Don't be fucking ridiculous." Like, they were like, "Don't be ridiculous. Like, what you want is you want a good job. You want to go to university and get a good job. So you want to go to university and do this and do this and do this." And because I was like 17 at the time, I was like, okay, sure, whatever. Yeah, all right, fine then, I guess. And so I went to do university, and then in my third year, I'd been doing comedy for a year at that point, and I decided that comedy was what I wanted to do. So I dropped out, and I went and studied performance acting and things like that at the City of Glasgow College.
Wait, you studied economics? What was it?
Performance.
Performance. Wait, so you like studied this?
Yes.
God damn! For how long?
For 3 years.
So you didn't finish your virology degree?
No, I didn't.
So how long did that go? Or
3 years.
Wait, the virology degree?
Yeah.
So you did that for 3 years,
yes.
And then you left, and then you did.
Yeah, I was 1 year. I was 1 year away from finishing.
God damn! I wish I had that balls.
Yeah. I mean,
respect, bro.
I mean, at the time I was like, oh man, I'm really not going to get any jobs. I'm really worried about what this is going to be like in the future and stuff like that. But you know. I'm sitting across from yourself, man. You've got a university degree. I know lots of people who have university degrees, and we're all just equally as poor. So, you know, who's laughing next?
Oh God. Okay. This might turn into like a capitalism rant. I feel. I don't know. I just feel it. Like somewhere down the road, this is gonna turn into that.
I mean, dude, like you've hung out with me before, Nick. You've hung out with me before.
I know. Yeah, that's where it ends up. All right. So,
what did you study, by the way?
So I studied software engineering,
and
now I'm in my last semester. I'm doing a master's in economic data analysis.
Okay.
But I remember, like it was in a similar stage. Like I was in my second or third year of software, and like I entered that originally to like become like a video game developer.
Yeah, everyone does. Yeah.
And I remember like when finding out, like, bro, this ain't it. Like this is not where we're going with this shit. And it's like I really wanted to quit so bad. I was like, fuck me, I'm like 3 years into this shit. I'm not gonna stop now.
Oh, so that is
so I kind of choke it to the end.
It's literally the thing called the sunk cost fallacy.
Yes. Where
if you think that you put so much time into something, you must finish it. You know. But I mean, all of my friends that I still talk to from university who finished studying parasitology and virology, one works in the field, and the rest all do like other jobs. Do you know what I mean? Like nobody really like went on to specialize in it.
I would say one of the big pluses for me is that I didn't hate the field. It was like meh.
I was the exact same. At the start of third year, we went to do kind of like a work experience thing, and very quickly all of us realized.
Yeah, like what do you kind of do as a virologist? You just like stare at microbes?
No. So most of you could work in a lab if you got a master's, but most of like what you would do with a bachelor's degree is you would be like working in a hospital or someplace like that, receiving samples, which usually meant shit, and then testing that shit to see what was wrong with the person who had taken the shit.
Oh, no. So you'd just be staring at shit.
You'd be literally staring at shit all day. And I was not the only person who dropped out after this realization, because I've been brought up on like tales of like Dr. Livingston, I presume, like trying to cure malaria or like fighting Ebola and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And then it turns out I'm going to be working at the hospital up the road from where I was born, looking at the shit of people that I might well know. I was like, I think I'm good, mate. I think I'm all right.
Just imagine you like going to one of your friends, like, bro, what was up with that shit?
Yeah,
bro?
yeah.
What the fuck?
You are sick, mate. I don't know what it is, but you have got it.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah, dude, it was nasty.
I mean, hey, here you are, so it's all good, bro.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out all right. I'm not looking at shit, you know what I mean? things can only go up from that point onwards.
Oh, indeed. All right. So, where did you study performance again?
I studied performance both in Glasgow, University of Glasgow for my more scientific background, and then City of Glasgow College, which was a 2-year degree. And
so, I was assuming that you started doing comedy while you were in university.
Yes, I started doing comedy in university. For my sins in a past life, I was in a metal band when I was like from the age of 16 to 19. And I loved it. I still do love like rock music and just music in general. But I really liked performance. Like I really liked the act of being on stage and like being involved with the crowd and stuff like that. And we did, like, for a small Scottish metal band, we did okay. We had like a CD and t-shirts and stuff. And so we were doing that, and it got to the point where in between songs I would like be sort of like making jokes with the crowd and stuff like that, because like it's a metal band, so they've got to fucking detune their guitars, like so it's like, so I would be sort of like joking around with people and stuff like that. And then when the band eventually didn't work, I went to an open mic night one night, not like a comedy open mic night, like
just an everything open
like
mic.
an everything. So people were doing fucking slam poetry and music and whatever. And it was the conceit was that if you did a performance of some kind, you would get a free beer. And I was a student at the time, so 6 songs in, I was playing a song or whatever, and people in the audience were obviously getting pretty sick of me doing like acoustic versions of these metal songs that no one had ever heard of in their life. And so this old Scottish guy who was in the bar, because he just wandered in. I think he was just so drunk that he didn't realize it was like a student bar, and he wandered in. And he starts shouting at me in that sort of like typical drunk person way, where it's like, rah, 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 you don't really know what they're saying. And so I like made fun of him. And I've told this story a couple of times on podcasts and things like that. But I to this day I cannot remember what it is I said. Do you know what I mean? Like I know I said something, and the first time people started like turning around and like, oh, something's happening, And then he said something back, and I said something back to him, and he got like a chuckle. And then he said something again, and I said something.
It's always the heckler story.
and then he said a third thing, and at that point I like took the gloves off, and I just like ruined this guy's life.
Oh my god, dude!
Really went ham on the old guy, because at the time I was starting to lose my hair, and he had what was quite.
Wait, how old were you?
I was 21.
Oh my god! I'm sorry, bro.
Yeah,
I didn't think it was that bad.
No, dude, I lost the genetic lottery. Do you know what I mean? I rolled the dice, and
I didn't know it was possible to be okay.
Dude, my dad lost his hair when he was 17, so I got an extra 4 years out of it. Seriously. But he was wearing what was obviously a toupee, right? Like very clearly not his hair, And so I just went fucking ham on him, because I knew how much it would bother me if someone did that to me. And so I did that, and everybody just burst out laughing. And like it was like at that moment I was like, comedy's a thing I could do, because I've grown up around, like, comedy is a really big part of Scottish culture. Like we call it like banter, Irish people call it crack, but like the ability to like be funny in conversation is really highly really prized,
especially for guys.
Yeah. It's part of the whole. And at the time I was working in pubs and stuff like that, and you've got to be like quick on your feet with comebacks and things like that. Yeah,
you're really good with like crowd work and that kind of stuff.
Well, thank you, man. Like it's because A, I got bullied.
Lots of experience.
I got bullied a lot in school, and then B, when I started working in bars, I got bullied a lot there by the customers as well. So you got to be quick on your feet. But so I had a friend called Lewis, who was the events organizer for our university union, and I said to him, I was like, I'm a comedian now, because I didn't fucking know any better, I was like, I'm a comedian now, so I just did this open mic night, and I fucking crushed it. Put me on the show. And because I didn't know about open mics, I didn't know about like the progression or how to work your way up or anything like that. So I just went to the only person I knew who organized comedy and was like, put me on. And I begged him for like 2 months, and he kept going like, no, dude, like no, like this is for like legit professional comedians. No. But he was my friend also, so every time I saw him, I'd be like, Lewis. And so eventually I like wore him down, and he was like, fine, I'm giving you 5 minutes, and I'm putting you on first. And if you fuck it up, you're never coming on again. And I was like, cool, right? So I went up and I did it. And I imagine it was probably terrible, right? Like it was probably like when we see somebody at an open mic and they do like okay, but they're like, you can see that there's like they over explain some stuff, or they go into too much detail about unimportant things. Yeah. It was like all fat, no beef, you know. But it got laughs. And so I walked off stage feeling like 10 feet tall. I was like, I'm the fucking greatest comedian that's ever lived. Look at this, like first gig, crushing it. And a comedian who I became sort of good friends with afterwards came up to me and was like, what's your name? I was like, Grant. He was like, where have you done open mics? And I literally said to him, what's an open mic? And he was like, come with me. We're going to go have a beer and I'm going to tell you what it is you need to do to like get into comedy. And that was it. And I haven't looked back since.
Wow, that was a strong start as far as like comedy starts go. Yeah.
I mean, let's be quite frank, dude. That makes it sound like I crushed the shit out of that first gig. I did not. I thought I crushed the shit out of it. And the second gig, I did what a lot of open micers do, which is go, all right, I've done that stuff. It works. Now I'm going to write something else. And because I was like a 19-year-old, 20-year-old kid, I had nothing relatable. I was like, oh, doesn't it suck when you live with your university flatmates? And I went on an old man pub where an open mic was, and I tried this new 5 minutes,
like word for word,
and I fucking bombed. Like I bombed so hard. So like, you know, it's a fucking learning experience.
Yeah, gotta tailor your shit to the audience, right?
Yeah. There's no point going up an old man pub and being like, so blowjobs, am I right? They're like, the last time I had a blowjob, German bombers were flying overhead. Fuck off, dude. What are you talking about?
Okay, yeah. So on the journey, so you finished that, and then so let's say for the next couple of years you were like climbing up the comedy ranks within Scotland, right?
I mean, yeah, I kind of was. It's a little bit different from here because in the UK the comedy scene there is so saturated. Like there's so many comedians. Yeah. So I'll tell people here. I was an open spot in Glasgow for like 2 or 3 years. Like because you'd have to get in touch with places to do an open spots type, what we consider an open mic, like months in advance. You know, like 2 months in advance. You have to be like, hey, can I get a spot in March? And you'd have to do that with as many open mics as you could. And maybe if you were lucky, you would get 2 gigs in a week doing 5-minute spots. And you could go through to Edinburgh, do the same. And after a while, people start to know you. They start to recognize your face. You start to get better, and then they start going, oh, this guy's not bad actually. And then people would say, "Oh, we need a good opener." And you'd go, "Okay, I'll do that." And then you work your way up from the open spots to the mid spots to eventually you're doing headline spots. So I mean, it took a long time here in Prague because the comedy scene is a little smaller and because there's a real sense of progression. Whereas if you turn up to the open mics and you do the work, you'll get gigs. You know, whereas in Scotland you can turn up to as many open mics as you like and do as much work as you like, but if you don't do it regularly and get noticed, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard quite similar stories from people from the US, like the competition.
The US is like the UK on steroids, though. Yeah. Like it is. I went to an open mic when I was in San Diego, and like just because it was actually my girlfriend's idea. She was like, "We're in America. Why don't you sign up for an open mic?" Because I hadn't bothered. I was there to visit her family. I didn't want to like
do the comedy thing.
Yeah. But she was like, "We're going to San Diego for a couple of days," because she wanted to get away from her family. Such is family life. And she was like, "So why don't we go to a comedy show?" So I messaged this guy who was running an open mic, and I said, "I'd love to come and do the open mic." And I was like, "I've got this experience, and I've done this." And he was like, "Did you sign up?" And I said, "No, I didn't know there was a sign up. I'm not from here." And he went, "Okay, well, you missed the sign up. The sign up was yesterday." And he was like, "But you can come to the venue, come to the comedy club, and put your name on the list, and we'll put you on." I said, "Okay, great." And so I went down to the comedy club, and the comedy show started at 7 p.m. And there was like a clipboard on the wall that had the list of names, and it was a long list of names. And I went up and I wrote my name at the bottom, and then like one of the other like comedians who was there, American comedian, like tapped me on the shoulder and was like, no, dude, like lift up the sheet. And so I lifted up the sheet, and there was another sheet full of names underneath. God. And I had to put my name at the bottom of that one. At the end, there was 67 comedians.
One night?
Yeah, everybody had 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Wait, like, just do the math for a second. How much, like, what?
So
60 times 3? That's
so
like
we were staying
a football game.
Yeah, we stayed there for a lot. It was a long time. People were coming and going. because it was like it's American comedy club, so they sell food and stuff like that as well. So people were coming in, they were sitting down, they were eating, they were like heckling or whatever, enjoying the show, and then they would get up and leave, and some more people would come and sit down, which was kind of good because it meant the audience was rotating, but it also meant you couldn't do callbacks or anything to anything that had happened previously. Luckily, I spoke because I was just talking to the guy behind the bar because that's just what I do, and it turned out that he was the owner manager of the venue, and he recognized my accent. He was like, "Where are you from?" I said, "Scotland." And he went, "Oh my God." And he was like, "Do you know this guy, who are American comedians working in the UK, particularly in Scotland?" And I knew one of them. So I was like, "Yeah, I know him." He was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." So we were chatting for a bit. And he was like, "Wait, are you here to get on the show?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Wait, did you sign up?" And I was like, No, I'm 67th. And he was like, No. So he went away and like spoke to the host. And so I got bumped up to 20th, nice. which was nice. Because we had dinner reservations, and so we were there at 7. I went on at 9:30. We left at 10:15.
You were 20th?
Yeah, you did. Like when we.
Bro, when does it end?
Well,
like
so
at 1 a.m.
We went away for dinner. We had dinner, and then we walked back, like not to go to the comedy club. We just walked past it to go somewhere else, and the gig was still happening.
Bro.
And that was an open mic, mate. 3 minutes each, all night. For no money.
Oh my God! Yes.
But dude, I mean, that's what I mean. You got to put in. You got to do these things to get you've got to work your way up. It's imperative. Like good gigs, bad gigs, like shitty gigs, amazing gigs. You've got to do the gigs.
Gotta do the work. Yeah. God damn. Yeah, I feel very spoiled over here. It's like, God damn, bro. We just like rock up at like 2 open mics. And it's like, hey, Christina, can I do that Friday?
And like literally like. That's one of the things that several people have said about the comedy scene here, and one of the things that I really liked about it when I first came here was the fact that they hadn't devolved into cliques yet. There wasn't like this group and that group and that sort of thing, and it was kind of open. People were generally nice. People would ask for advice or things like that. You would give them advice and help them out and stuff like that. And which is not kind of the case back home. I was very lucky that at my first gig there was a guy there. Who came over to me and was like, "Do you want some advice?" And I was smart enough to be like, "Yeah," do you know?
Give you some mentoring.
Yeah, but most of the time that wouldn't have happened.
Everyone's like just fighting tooth and nail to survive. Kind of like it's just God damn, yeah. So I guess we've already jumped into the Prague scene, and so like how did you like leave the UK? Like, let's start there.
Okay, so I had done a couple of Edinburgh Fringes where I did like a 3-man show and then a 2-man show and then eventually I did my solo show. My first solo show was called Nothing Compares to Use, and it was a show all about like relationships and love basically. And I was on a venue called the Beehive Inn at 10 o'clock at night, and it was an hour of just me, and it was my first ever solo hour, and I was fucking super nervous. But I like to say to people that like before doing that, I was a person trying stand-up. And after doing that, I was a stand-up comedian. Because for those of you who don't know what the Edinburgh Fringe is, it is the world's largest and longest running arts festival. The city of Edinburgh, during the month of August, becomes like the performance capital of the world. There is stand-up comedy, there is theatre, there is poetry, there is slam like open mics. There's like improv. There's everything you can think of. If it can be done on the stage, cabaret, musicians, it's there, and it runs for the entire month. During that month, the population of Edinburgh doubles. Like it is.
So it's like proper international. It's not like just a bunch of people from the south. It's like
everywhere. Like comedians from America, comedians from Australia, comedians from Canada. Like all of the like world's best comedians and like the middling comedians and the new starts will all go there because it is a place to get noticed or recognized or just get the experience of doing your show every day. But also you do about 10 other shows because you go to like a place where they do like a showcase and they're doing like everyone gets 5 minutes or something. So you go up and you do 5 minutes and you go, if you like my stuff, come and see me tonight at whatever the venue is. And you hand out flyers and stuff like that, and it's fucking madness. The most shows I've ever done in one day at the Edinburgh Fringe was 16. I did 16 shows.
16 shows in one day.
First show was called Brunch and Laughs, and it was at 10 o'clock
in the morning. Bro, who's watching these shows?
Because I mean, like there are old people there, and they're going for like coffee and biscuits and stuff like that.
They're just enjoying it. Yeah.
Like I said, if you are a venue, if you're a cafe, if you are a fucking like co-working space,
are people just like laughing all the time?
Yeah, basically. I mean, if it's a venue.
Bro, like I love my comedy, but like. Fuck off 10 a.m. in the morning, bro.
Yeah.
Go away.
I mean, it was a terrible idea. The gig did not go well. But you know,
okay,
but you do it.
But you do it just to get the word around. Yeah, fair enough.
And to be fair, two old people who were at that gig, they must have had a fucking nap in the middle of the day because my show was literally 12 hours later. But they came to the gig. But so it is madness. It is absolute madness. But it's brilliant. And
like something of that scale. God damn.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the population of Edinburgh literally doubles, just because of the amount of performers who flock in, and there's shows happening every hour, every half hour, all day, every day for a month. It's nuts. Right up until like 3 a.m. The last shows are at 3 a.m. Where you have like the late lives and the roast battles and things like that.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So I was doing that. And there was a guy his show was up the stairs. I was in the big room, he was in the wee room. And there was a guy whose show was up the stairs, and it was kind of like a compilation show called The Good, The Bad, and The Irish. And it was supposed to be focused on Irish comedians, because there's fucking hundreds of them also, doing like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or whatever. And it was hosted by this guy called Michael. Okay. I probably should have changed his name, but his name is Michael. And so, because I was on before him, I would like go up to see the show afterwards, and we got to talking, and then eventually he would say to me, well, why don't you jump on and stuff? And so I started closing the show, because I'd finished my show downstairs, go upstairs, close his show, and then we'd get drunk together. It was back when I was drinking.
Good days.
Yeah. And so he said to me, after the Fringe, he was like, I'm taking The Good, The Bad, and The Irish on the road. Do you want to come with me? And be like our opening act. And I said, fuck yeah, right? Because I genuinely thought he meant like the UK. We're going around the UK and Ireland. What he meant was that we're going to Germany, Austria, Slovakia, Slovenia, the Czech Republic, Poland, and there's always one I forget. Slovakia. I always
the one fucking next door.
Slovakia. Anyway, so it was like a tour mostly of Irish pubs. It was mostly a tour of Irish pubs that had like stages in them or whatever, and we would do a comedy night there. And the entire thing was a fucking disaster. Like from the get-go. Michael is many things, but organised he is not, right? And so one of the comedians like got to the airport and found out that his passport ran out in like in 6 months, or like less than 6 months. Okay. And you're not allowed to travel to the UK if your passport has got over 6 months. Can't travel
anywhere if your passport is about to expire.
Yes. So he couldn't come, right? And so then it was Michael and another Irish comedian, and then me. And then we did the tour, and then halfway through the tour, the other Irish comedian fell out with Michael. Like they had like an argument, they had a falling out. And so he flew back home. And so by the end of the tour, it was me and Michael. Right? The show is called The Good, The Bad,
and the Irish.
Like that makes you think there's going to be at least 3 Irish comedians, and what you had was a Scottish comedian and a fucking lunatic. Like it was a disaster. We made some good money, and it was my first experience of like being on the road touring, which was really, really important. But the important part, the best part of it was I arrived in Prague.
Yes.
And to carry on with the theme of things going disastrously wrong, we had booked a venue. Our good friend Christina, had booked a venue called Duplex, which is in the centre of the city.
Wait,
yes,
you guys were in Duplex?
Yes, we were. Well,
you did the comedy
there. We were supposed to.
Okay, good. Carry on.
Because, as I said, everything this tour touched turned to like literal shit. If I'd been a microbiologist, I would have been looking at this tour.
Just carrying on the tradition.
Down a microscope. So we get there, and Christina says to us, I've got good news and bad news. I said, what's the good news? She said, the show is sold out. I said, well, that's great. I said, what's the bad news? She said, the bad news is that we can't do the show at Duplex because the pipes there have burst and the entire place is flooded.
Oh, I think I remember you telling the story, but like, what a fucking unlucky ass.
Yeah. So she moved the venue to the check-in. And so we did the show at the check-in instead.
Well, this is it's not the first time you guys didn't check in, right?
This is the first time I ever done the check-in. It wasn't the first time that Christina did comedy at the check-in. But it was my first time ever there. And because it was like a sold-out show and because everybody moved to the check-in's not a big venue. Duplex is a big venue. So the place was fucking packed.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And it was phenomenal. Like, it was really, really, really good. And then I ended up, because at that point I was just working as a comedian, and I didn't know how long the tour was going to go. I was not very well organised. I didn't know when the tour was finishing. But also I thought to myself,
your organizer.
Yeah, I thought to myself, like, when the thing finishes, what I'll do is hopefully I'll have a little bit of money, which I did. And I was like, so I'll spend a couple of days in Prague, because that's our last stop. I've never been to Prague. I've heard it's great. So I ended up staying here a couple of days because I was like new in town. People were like, oh, we're having a show here. We're having a show here. Somebody else was like, we're having a show in Brno and Olomouc, which are these other cities in the Czech Republic. Then they were like, well, we're doing a show in Bratislava. Would you like to come there? And then somebody was like, well, we're doing a show in Krakow. Would you like to come there? I was like, yeah. And so I stayed for like an extra 2 weeks and I did these shows. And by this point, it was just me. And at that time, Brexit was happening, and I'm not a big fan of Brexit, just as a rule. And I thought, why don't I fucking move here? I'll move here. Christina was saying to me, like, dude, would love to have you here. We can get like push comedy here, and take like what she had. You know, Christina, dude, she's got plans. And so I was like, well, fuck yeah. And I honestly thought I would move here for 2 years, and then when Brexit happened, I would move back home, and I would have a fun experience of being in Prague. But then I met a girl, and the rest, as they say, is history.
All right. That's good to hear, bro. And so you've been in Prague 6 years?
3 years.
Wait, so you came in 20? When?
I came in 2018.
2018.
Oh, so 4 years actually.
4 years, yeah, by now, 2018. That's good, bro.
I can't believe, dude, time is a flat circle and it just keeps pushing on. Like,
yeah, it's 2022 already.
Jesus Christ.
Did you start your podcast during this time? Like, while you were in Prague?
I started my podcast in Prague because basically the whole idea of my podcast, which is called Making Europe Grants Again. Please download it and listen to it.
It's probably better than this podcast. But
no,
it's all right.
You can make a podcast. All podcasts are as good as each other. By which I mean that, like, how many people do you have listening to your podcast? 50? Dude, that's good.
15.
Oh, 15? That's still good.
Yeah.
Dude, I've been doing my podcast for fucking 3 years, and we just broke 10,000 downloads. We're at the point.
Total.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I wish it was per episode. Are you fucking kidding me? But like, there's hundreds of podcasters out there. There's hundreds of podcasters out there. I was just listening to a podcast on the way here. It's called Last Podcast on the Left. 3 comedians discussing true crime, and they did. This was before the true crime boom, but they did that podcast for 6 years, when it was just them, and like maybe they have a few friends listening in New York, and that was it. And they put some work into that show. And then when the true crime boom happened, they were there. You know what I mean? And it was
they're there to capitalize on.
Yeah, and now they're massive. But like they said for 6 years it was just a labor of love because they just wanted to do it. And that's what my podcast is. I really wanted to try and show off. We've got such a wealth of talent here in the European comedy scene.
Yes.
That doesn't have much of a chance of getting seen elsewhere. And so I thought, why don't we get them on a podcast? And we can, at the time I was like, we can talk about things that are happening in Europe or wherever, because that's an interesting way to get people to listen to these like funny people, you know? So that's how the whole idea came to me. And then I've got my good friends, Katie Anderson and Phil McAuliffe. Katie does our news anchor and Phil does the music. And then we have guests on the show and they come on and they pick a topic from the news, which is sometimes serious, sometimes ridiculous, and then we all just make jokes about it, and it's a great laugh.
Yeah, I've watched some episodes. It's a great laugh. I was about to say, because you mentioned it's to show, but I guess that's how it. I mean, my question was basically going to be like why are you talking about politics if you just want to show the comedians? But I guess like if you want to draw, people who aren't just there for comedy, you want to talk about something else. Right?
Exactly, and also just because I just happen to be a massive political geek. Like I'm really interested in it. But also, it started off like the first episode when you listen to it is like very political because that was what I wanted to do. But as we've done the show and it's sort of like progressed, we figured out that like it's not always good. It's not good to just do like politics stuff all the time because things there can be kind of depressing and it's kind of difficult to write. So more recent episodes, we've had quite a run of maybe like the last 10 episodes. I think have been like I think we've really hit our stride. We got a new podcast studio. Instead of like being like all sat on a sofa in a venue, we're just like around a table with microphones, and it makes the setting and the feeling much easier. It's much quicker to come back and forward with, and because we were like yourself, man, we were learning on the fly. I'd never done a podcast before. I had no fucking idea what I was doing, and like so we've had like people bring on funny stories. Like we had a great there's an Irish comedian here called Terry Norman, and that's my phone. Sorry, dude. I apologize. We had an Irish comedian called Terry Norman come on, and he was doing a hilarious story about some Irish boys who.
Yeah, Terry's insane.
Yeah, he's nuts. He's nuts, but the fun nuts.
Yeah.
He brought a story on about two Irish boys who like had a corpse. Somebody died, and they like put the corpse between them and took them to the benefits office to try and like claim their benefits. Like they weekend at Bernardstown to try and get it, and of course it didn't fucking work. But the story itself is hilarious. So I was
holding my breath. Like, did they do it?
No. So I think that was episode 41. So if you go and listen to episode 41, it's called the episode is called Alan's Lost Corpse, and it's really really funny.
Okay, that one I have to say. Yeah. That sounds a lot more chill because, as you mentioned, like the whole thing about politics being depressing. It's like I'm someone who's also a bit of a politics nerd. Maybe my focus is more on like on a different region. It's more where I'm from and how things are going over there. But it's,
I've heard, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I've only just looked at the first page of the news, but it seems like everything in the Middle East is peachy key.
Honestly, these days, bro, like we're not being invaded these days. Come on, bro.
The Saudis are the ones doing the invading.
Yeah, but we don't talk about the old ones. We're talking about the new ones right now.
No, I'm talking about Yemen. That's happening right now.
It's happening right now, yeah. You have to cut that one out, right?
I'm being censored. I'm being censored on the Babiker and the Traveler podcast.
No, it's all good, bro.
I don't want to get you in trouble.
Too late. What was I about to say?
So the other day I saw Mohammed, he was sucking all these dicks, right?
My God, dude. Bro, my family. I'm kidding. Is this payback for the beginning?
No. I'm
no, but like as I was saying, yeah, like the whole thing, the whole idea about like it being like politics being depressing. Like I think it is quite it's not easy to make politics fun.
No.
And like people who can do that consistently,
yeah,
people will get their news from them. It's like that's what late night has proven.
That's what late night has become, basically, isn't it? Like
it's like. People get their views from there and their opinions.
There's a podcast from the UK called The Bugle, which I listen to a lot, which is like really excellent satire. Like I like to think that our podcast is like satire adjacent, but theirs is like proper satire. You know, like
professional satire.
Yeah, and like they really do. And I listen to them like religiously every week. You know, but when I started, I was like, I want to do politics because I didn't really know that much about like European politics myself, and because the Brexit thing was happening, I was like, this would be a really interesting angle to come into that. But because the UK politics at the time was fucking a shit show, like we ended up talking about Brexit more than we ended up talking about anything over here, you know?
Yeah, man. How's Brexit going?
It's going great, mate. No notes. Everything's working swimmingly. We have all the food we need and all the workers we need, and
but like. I don't want to see it, like, to my understanding, everyone who's moved out by now is in the green, right? Like, if you're from the UK and you like have some residency in the EU, you're good. Like, you don't have to go back.
No. I got what's called an EU relationship visa. My girlfriend and I. My girlfriend is American, which is not her fault. No one's perfect, but we met here, and we found out from a friend of ours who was in a gay couple who were trying to get married, and they had some difficulty because in the Czech Republic, gay marriage isn't yet recognized. It's like you can get a civil partnership, but you can't get married, kind of thing. So they were in the same sort of situation as the UK was like 10 years ago. Okay. And so they said to us, they were like, "There's a way," because I was like looking, I was like, "I'm gonna have to get like a residency or something like this," and they were like, "No, you can get an EU relationship visa." And the way it works is because my girlfriend is American, technically, I got the visa because at the time I was still an EU citizen. Brexit hadn't happened yet, which covered her because she's an American. But because my name is also on the visa, it also covers me. So then when Brexit happened, my EU partnership visa is still valid. So I can stay here until at least 2024 with this relationship visa, and then you can get it extended for another 5 years. So technically,
as long as you guys are having a relationship here, it's
yeah, exactly. Like basically,
God damn.
And not just here, in any EU country. It's we didn't go through the Czech authorities; we went through the EU authorities.
Wait, so if you could just get married to or have a relationship with just anyone here, you can stay here?
Yeah.
That's how it works?
There is a the Czech government have a specific one, which is a Czech relationship visa. If you were, so say if you started dating a Czech man, whoa, no, I'm kidding. If you started dating a Czech woman, you could get a relationship visa with that Czech woman from the Czech.
Yeah, that one makes sense. But like the idea of like you can get in a relationship with someone who's like not even from here, and that can make you stay here.
It's because
it's crazy.
They're part of the EU.
I mean, the US is but because you were because UK was still okay. I see.
I was part of the EU.
Once upon a time.
We literally found out about this.
God, that was like last second.
Dude, it literally was. We found out about it in October, and Brexit happened on the 1st of December. We found out about it in October. Wow. So we had to You had to
apply for like less than 2 months.
We had less than 2 months, and like the Czech Republic is great in many ways, but its bureaucracy is not great. And so
I'm still waiting on my visa.
we had to like get all these old photographs, and like they asked for like the weirdest stuff. They were like, it says here that you went on a holiday together to like I don't know, Poland in like fucking 2019. I was like, yeah, we did. And they were like, show us the plane tickets. Like we had to like prove that our relationship was real. You know, like
they asked for shit,
like scamming them.
That's how it is.
And so we got it like 4 days before the Brexit cut off point. 4 days.
God damn. Well, glad you guys made it, guys.
Yeah, me too. Otherwise, this podcast would be pretty dull if it's just you talking to no one.
Indeed, the COVID scene would also be pretty dull. All right, so you got here. You're stable. You're consistent.
I wouldn't say stable. mentally, I don't know about that.
You're physically here for a few.
Physically here.
The authorities won't kick you out for a good few years. At least that's stable enough. But like, so you were working as a teacher for a while, right?
Yes, I was. Yeah. When I first got here, because I had to get. You have to prove that you're working. You can't just come here and not work. Yeah. So I got a job as an English teacher, which I was and am hilariously underqualified for. I've never taught English in my life. And so very quickly I sort of stopped doing that. I worked in a preschool for a little while, which is much easier because little kids, when you just pick them up and throw them, it's fine. And then I taught drama, like I taught acting. And then I did a little bit of voice work. I did this and the next thing, just whatever sort of odd jobs I could find. And then recently I got the job with Visual Politic, and so now I still teach drama on Wednesdays.
Where do you teach? If I may ask?
It's a town just outside of Prague, and it's kind of like a sort of wealthy suburb, and I teach the.
So it's just like a random class, not like a university or something.
No, I'm not a university teacher. I've got a class which is for like primary school age children, where we're just playing games and things like that to like get their imagination going. Okay. Then we've got a class for like teenagers, where it's like, you know, like younger teenagers, maybe like 10 to 15, where they're interested in like the ideas of performing and like how that works and stuff like that. And then I've got a class for the older age teenagers from like basically high school to university, where we look like more at like the theory of acting and what it means to be like a performer and all this sort of stuff.
It's good. Damn. So you're doing like comedy and teaching and okay. So I guess we can end with at least career-wise in in the recent YouTube position.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Well, I guess let me introduce what visual politics is. So what the channel that I used to watch, it was basically about like politics. Like it was this Czech guy with a very British accent.
He's British.
He's British. He's not Czech at all.
No, he's British.
Okay. Why is he here then?
I mean, why is anyone here, man?
Brexit.
Yeah.
Okay, no.
You've got very anti-immigrant and immigrant yourself out.
No,
you're like, I'm pulling up the drawbridge for those that come before.
No, I genuinely thought you were
That's one of my favorite things about Czech people is that like this happens more often than I'm comfortable with, but they always ask me,
why are you
here? And I know what they mean is like, what are you doing here? Like, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But they say it as, why are you here? And it makes it sound like, what the fuck are you doing here?
No, I mean, I'd be interested to get to see what his story was, but like.
Simon's got like a bunch of YouTube channels, so that's
okay. Yeah, makes sense.
And I think over here it's a cheaper cost of living, and if you're making good money, you can live pretty well.
You can live pretty well here. Yeah, that's a very common reason for being here.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how'd you get into that? Like, what's the story?
So it was actually a good friend of mine who's a burlesque performer called Zoira Blue, and she knew of the guys who ran Visual Politic, and Simon, like I said, the previous host, he had like 5 other YouTube channels that he was doing, which were like his YouTube channels. He was just like the presenter of Visual Politic, because it's actually run by a couple of guys, including my friend Fonseca, who hosts the Spanish channel. So they were looking for a replacement host because Simon wanted to leave and concentrate on his own things. And basically, she was talking to Fonseca about it, and she says, I know this guy called Grant. He's really into politics, and we think you would really like him. So I went to do the audition, and I did it like, just sort of read the script as they gave it to me. But then I said to them, I was like, this feels a little bit sort of stale. Like, not stale, like, I wasn't criticizing the writing, but like I didn't like I didn't like just like reading it as was. And I was like, would you mind if I just throw in a couple of jokes? I was like, you don't have to use it. I'll do the straight one, and then I'll do the one where there's just a smattering of jokes, And I was like, I won't detract from the thing. I won't make fun of anything that's like, egregious or anything. I was like, but let me just do something. Let me just do something, because I think it'll be more interesting. And luckily it worked. Like the audience seemed to really like it. Fonseca and his partners really liked it. I think they still wanted to have like a serious-ish side. So there's now 2 of us. There's me and another guy called Josh. We both host the English channel.
Okay.
And it's a lot of fun. And I have like they say never read below the line, but I always read the top like 10 comments. Because it always gives me ideas for the next jokes, So at first people were making fun of me because there was a hashtag "Bring Back Simon," when people were like, "Simon's gone," and so then I referenced that, and I kept making jokes about like what we had done to Simon, like where he was, and things like that, and all this sort of stuff. And then so then people were like, "Okay, this Grant guy's kind of funny, like he's going along with the jokes," and so then there was like jokes about people joked about my teeth because I've got very British teeth. And so then I would make jokes about that, and this type of thing. And so the fact that like there's a sort of engagement there with the audience, it develops.
That was not there before, yeah.
Well, kind of, yeah. And so it's been a lot of fun. And if you're interested at all in politics and sort of like looking behind what's going on, I really recommend that you check out Visual Politic.
I feel kind of guilty now because I feel like.
And tell them that I sent you. Say like, this Grant guy, he's funny. #Bring Back Simon.
Because I actually think I'm like one of those people who probably like saw a thumbnail with someone who wasn't Simon, who just like, wait, no, the thumbnails don't have the person off of the
No. So
like I probably, holy shit, now I feel terrible. Because I probably like watched you and I was like, wait, this isn't Simon. And I think this was before, because this is a while ago, right? When did you start? Yeah, probably before I made.
Maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think I actually I probably just saw you. I was like, wait, this isn't Simon. Holy shit!
This is a different bald guy. I'm fucking out of here, man. This is bullshit.
Oh my god, dude. That's insane.
Well, it's good.
Well, now I'll be back. It's good.
It's good to come on the podcast, Mohammed. Let's recap what's happened so far. First of all, I come on the podcast and you insult me like straight away.
Bro, to be honest, it was more of an insult of the price. Like it was actually a compliment. It
was the most backhanded compliment. He's the biggest comedian in this tiny sea. He's the biggest fish in this dried up pond we have. And then you were like halfway through, you did such excellent research on me that you were like, holy shit, you host Visual Politics. And now at the end, you just confirmed that the reason you stopped watching is because you saw me on there and decided I'm not doing this. So thank you, man. It's been quite something to come on your podcast.
What we've learned is that I'm a very shallow person.
I'm not saying you're a shallow person. I'm just saying you're maybe not the best podcaster.
Hey, look, if I already knew everything about you, I wouldn't have fun.
This is true.
I would like. What did we actually like? I've been meaning to also get like a lot of people from the comedy scene on, but like I kind of like talk to all of them so much that I kind of already know everything about them.
Yeah.
I kind of haven't been able to like get a hold of you for like a long chat, so I was like, you know what, a podcast would be a good thing. So like one of the reasons this is happening is because I don't do that much. But like, hey,
nice.
Get to learn something. But like it is the plot. I was not expecting the plot twist in this podcast. It was not planned, but it just happened.
The M. Night Shyamalan shit, you know?
Yeah, it's like okay, this is.
Oh my god, you're him.
Oh
you were the ghost all along.
You were the guy who killed Simone. What? Why'd you do this? It's good. Have you guys done any episodes about like Saudi Arabia recently?
We've done a lot of episodes about Saudi Arabia. We did an episode which was talking about how they're building a tech city, like a super up-to-date city.
Neon.
Yeah, on the coast. Dude, Saudi Arabia is one of those countries that people are crazy interested in it because it's kind of crazy, and so we've done a couple episodes about that, about stuff that's been happening there. We did about one that was really interesting, which is about what happens when the oil is gone, or what happens when the oil is not needed as much. Because it is like an entire country based upon petrodollars, you know, and so they're really at the moment trying to like diversify into like other fields and things like that.
They've done a surprisingly decent job of diversifying. Like if you're keeping up with like what they've been able to do with the economy and like
I mean for sure
investments and
it's an interesting place, and so we've got a lot of videos on that. Obviously, at the moment, I don't know when this is going to go up, but at the moment we are doing a bunch of videos on the situation in Ukraine, which people can find on there.
I could assume that is currently the focus.
Yeah, very much so. So I think this week I just did one about the Russian war in Georgia and what that will teach people about what's going to happen to Ukraine.
Yeah, to be honest, like previously to the current war, it did feel like Russia was just sort of like doing a lot of military stuff that people just kind of like didn't care about, like the Crimea, Georgia, like all of that stuff. It was like, you know, like the last thing you would hear in the news cycle. Like it was never the headline.
It was very much like appeasement. Like
it's only now there's like, okay, we need to like this country is.
Yeah, well, I mean, like when they went into Crimea, they didn't declare war. They just like went in, and by the time anybody knew what was happening, it was done. You know. And there wasn't any resistance from the people in Crimea, really. I mean, there was some, but like not what we've seen from Ukraine.
From Ukraine currently, yeah.
And there's an argument to be made that it's just like when the Second World War. If you just keep letting like somebody like Putin just keep taking little bites, and then eventually they get to that point where they go, oh well, no one's going to stop me. Like what are they going to fucking do? And to a certain extent, he's right. Like what are we going to do? Nothing. And so we're just going to sit back and watch as the European country gets massacred.
Well, I mean, I think there's a decent fight right now. No, I mean, I feel like there's definitely a lot of okay, we should stop this guy now. Like time, like it's stronger than anything I've seen. All my life probably. Like in terms of like, you know, this is a serious, you know, world war threat, not like a joke meme that we must deal with.
Well, I mean, Russia's a military armed superpower, and if anything happens,
I like how one commentator from the US put it. He's like, Middle East playtime is over. We have like an actual threat now.
It's bad, man. Like I don't know if you saw, but a Russian rocket went like awry and hit a Turkish ship in the sea.
I did not hear.
The Black Sea. Turkey is a member of NATO. Like, if that had killed anyone or anything like that, according to maritime law, that is an act of war. And if Russia declares war on NATO, all of NATO gets involved, and then we're looking at World War III. So, I mean, it's been amazing.
It's like 1 or 2 steps away from that.
There was a podcast I was listening to where the guy was talking about accidents, incidents, and fuck ups. It's literally called IAF, which is like the 3 most dangerous things when you're in a military conflict, because those are the things that can accidentally escalate it
to war. Yeah.
But I mean, dude, it really came home to me. There's been an amazing outpouring of sympathy and support and things like that across all European countries, which is a little racist sometimes, because it's like, oh, look at these white, look at these white refugees, aren't they lovely? And I not like those other refugees. But that aside, I was doing a show in Olomouc yesterday, which is a city in the Czech Republic. And we got on the train to come back to Prague, the last train. And the train was packed, like absolutely packed full of people. And I was like, oh, I didn't expect this. But then the guy told us, he was like, no, this we were trying to get on. And he was like, no, these carriages are for the Ukrainians. There was Ukrainians on the train going to Prague who were refugees. And they had suitcases with them, which you assume contains their entire life. Like everything they own was in this bag. Or everything that they know that they own.
Anything that they can grab along with them. Yeah.
And we went on the train and we showed the woman our ticket, and she was like, okay, cool. And she took us into a carriage that was full of people. I mean, like people sitting on the floor and stuff. And there was like these 4 young girls which turned out to be our seats. And the Czech conductor, in the most Czech thing I've ever seen in my entire life, said to these refugees, you need to get out of the seat. Like, you need to get these boys their seat, because, you know, you've got the free ticket because you're a refugee, but you don't have the right to sit here. So give them the seat. And we're saying to her, no. It's okay. Like, it's fine. Let the war refugees have a seat.
To be fair, it is like kind of her job to like get them up. But I understand your feeling of like, this is not the time.
Yeah, I was like, no.
Like enforce these.
I was like, no. Let them have the seat. Honestly, I don't care that much about sitting down. And she was like, the most Czech thing. And she was like, no, but the seats are yours. We're like, yeah, we don't care. Let them have the fucking seats. So it was interesting. So hopefully, by the time this podcast goes out, people will be able to look at them. We've got videos going up about the history of Zelensky, the history of Vladimir Putin, like what Ukraine is going to be doing in the future, what the Russians are seeing, because Russians are getting entirely different news from us, which is part of the reason why this is working so well for them.
Yeah, I feel like probably like the most people who are kind of screwed over here are like the average Russian, well, obviously Ukrainians, but like other than them, like the average Russian citizen who like now can't like access their bank accounts, like can't fucking use Apple Pay, and like can't go on their trams. Like, it's crazy to think. I don't know, like the extent to which like being a part of the international communities, like your everyday life depends on that.
Yeah,
like, it's like,
well, there was a couple of really famous economists in the late 80s and early 90s when the Berlin Wall fell, who declared the end of history, and they thought that once everybody's like, I know, right, fucking ridiculous, but they thought once everyone's integrated into the world economic system, going to war would be so disadvantageous because of the exact things that you're describing that no one would do it. There was a really famous theory called the McDonald's Arches theory, which was as soon as a country is free enough to have a McDonald's in it, then another country with a McDonald's won't attack that country, because by that point that country is involved in the international economic system, which has obviously turned out to be fucking ridiculous. But for the sort of post-communism, fall of communism period of like the 1990s, early 2000s.
Is there a McDonald's in Ukraine? Can we check that?
There is.
Okay, well, it wasn't enough.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, dude, people overlook the little ones. Like, there were McDonald's in Serbia when the Serbian conflict happened. But
that was the Serbians murdering other people. But,
I know, but NATO bombed them. And they had but they had McDonald's. But everyone went, oh, that one doesn't count. Civil wars don't count. The theory still holds, and you're just like, no, your theory is dog shit.
Yeah. I mean, it is like, in terms of it is like the cost of going to war is still insanely high. On this wasn't the case when back in the day where like there wasn't such an international system and like countries were relatively more self-dependent, especially on their basic goods. But now like you cannot function in society without goods from China and like internet from devices from microchips from Taiwan. And, it is every day. You cannot imagine your current life without.
There was a Twitter thread I saw on which was translated from Russian over into English the other day, and it was a Russian economist, and he said, "I don't think people realize just how bad this is going to get, because the Russian central bank has enough rubles for maybe a month, maybe two, and already people are starting to lose jobs because the parts they need for like working in the factories they work in aren't coming in. People who work in the financial industry have been cut off, so they can't do anything. People can't get paid. Like, it's going to be bad. And the worrying thing is that when things get bad enough, people in power will do
extreme
crazy shit to stay in power. So it's kind of nervous.
Yeah. It never happened with the nuclear power, but just because we see what happens.
I know. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And on that exciting and not at all depressing note.
Was there? Can I just please check if I have it on it, because I feel like there's like maybe one area that I would like. Oh yeah, like sorry, I kind of want to talk about like your last tour. Like you
yes.
So this was a tour. You were in Christina. You went over Europe for 2 weeks.
Yes, 2 weeks on the road.
And so how was that? Like, which countries did you go to?
We went to Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovenia, Hungary, Austria, the Netherlands, Switzerland.
There we go.
Thank you.
Yes.
Seven countries. Good. And then we're going to take a couple months off, and then I think just before the summer we're going to do Germany and maybe Denmark and possibly Scandinavia. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh damn! All right, so there's a part 2 coming up.
Yeah, we hope so. We're trying to organize it now. So
okay. And so this was this like your first tour, like kind of solo, or at least where you were like the main guy?
Around Europe. Yeah, for sure. I've obviously done gigs in other cities and things like that where I've been the main guy, as you say. But this was my first time doing it on the road, where it was like a double header show, Christina and I, and it was brilliant. It was really, really good fun. We had a lot of fun in different cities. Krakow was excellent. Ljubljana in Slovenia was a lot of fun. Eindhoven in the Netherlands was brilliant. So we had some really, really good shows on the road, and obviously Prague and Brno were great too. And it was really, really good, just because it's starting to become feasible for comedians in Europe to do that. There's a few at the top who are already doing it, like Dragos and people like that, and then there's a few others who are sort of getting to that point. And it was a lot of fun. It was a learning experience for sure, but it was really worthwhile, and I'm glad that we managed to do it.
Happy for you guys, man.
Thank you.
I'm hoping one day you can have your Middle Eastern tour and I can introduce you.
Yeah, I mean, there's
that gulp was loud.
There's gigs in Dubai, so
Dubai, there's other countries too, but like Dubai's nice.
I've only ever seen that there is an actual comedy club in Dubai, which I know.
True.
So
Lebanon has a quite decent scene. If you've heard about like Beirut, I heard like one. I actually met one comedian who performed there one time.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, so that one day, let me just check. So I guess like one kind of final question is just like for any comedian who's like just kind of starting out right now, one of the people hanging out in like the Prague open mics, like what would be like your number one recommendation, or like what would you tell them right now?
Go and see as much comedy as you possibly can. Like, go to all of the shows, turn up to the open mics, like do the work, because part of the thing that makes you better at comedy is just the confidence that comes with being on stage. And nothing is better than getting your creative juices flowing than seeing somebody who you really admire and being like, wow, that was brilliant. Or seeing somebody who you really admire and going, I can do better than that. Because genuinely, that's the way it works. Like, that is the way it works. Like, when I was in Scotland, for the longest time I was an open mic, and then it got to the point where I was looking at comedians who were opening for people, and I was thinking, I'm better than that. So I'd go to people and I'd say, I could do that. And they go, and after a while they go, okay. And you do that for a while, and then you look at the people in the mid spot and you go, I can do that. Yeah. And then that's how you work up. So immerse yourself in comedy, do the work, and go and see as much as you can. Like watch it on Netflix, but especially go to live shows, because nothing will make you more enthusiastic and excited about comedy than seeing somebody who really knows what they're doing crush the shit out of it.
Learn from the greatest.
Yeah, exactly.
The best.
Speaking of which, I'm performing on Friday.
Good stuff. Every Friday, you can catch Grant here. Sometimes me in the Friday show at Prakovna. How do you say it?
Prasovna,
here at Prague. And you can also watch him at the You can follow him on the Granty Christ.
The Granty Christ on Instagram, yes.
And Making Europe
Grants Again, which is on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right. That's my friend here. That's our time. That was a very enjoyable podcast. Thanks for coming here, man.
Thank you for having me, Mohammed.
And yeah, with that, see you guys later.
Bye.